Okay, thank you. Sorry, we were just sharing that introductions from the virtual, noting that Mark Calusi, this is his final meeting, unfortunately. We wish him all the best with his new venture, but he's resigned as the Mifflin County Planning Director. So, Mark, we'd like to give you a chance, and we want to thank you for all your service over the years to the MPO. And then if you could have Lonnie introduce himself and his role with the county.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, thank you, Steve. And it's been a pleasure to work with you all. I'm going to miss you all. Really enjoyed this group and all the work that you guys are doing. But as my proxy for future meetings, until they can hire a brand new planning director, Lonnie Griffith, who is our maintenance director, is actually going to be attending all future meetings, but he actually is able to attend this meeting with us today. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Lonnie to introduce himself. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Lonnie Griffith, and I'm the facilities manager here at the county. Over the last several years, I've worked with the county commissioners on the bridge program for the $5 fee, and also participated quite a bit with Mark with some local bridges. And that, as he said, I'll be filling in until they find a new planning director. And thanks for having me.
Great, thank you, Lonnie. Appreciate your involvement today. And yeah, as you mentioned, we've worked with Lonnie over several rounds of the local bridge prioritization process and helping to evaluate how the county can best use its $5 fee. So we're glad to have you. And Mark, you'll be sorely missed, but yeah, again, we wish you all the best with your relocation and your new job that you'll be picking up. Anybody else? Is this your first MPO meeting that you'd like to introduce yourselves to the group from the virtual participants? Okay, hearing none, we'll continue along with our agenda. The first order of business is the public forum after the call to order. So anybody that has an item that's not reflected on the agenda that they want to share or bring up at this time? Okay, hearing none, the next order of business, item C, is the approval of the past meeting minutes, our January 20th MPO meeting. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review that either here today with your packet or the advance email that went out on Tuesday. So we would look to have any discussion and then also entertain a motion to approve.
No discussion.
Go ahead, Brad.
I was going to say, if there is no discussion, I move to approve as presented.
Okay, thank you, Brad. And I think Greg was kind of in tandem. So Greg, do you want the second?
Absolutely.
Okay, we have a motion by Brad Kerstetter, a second by Greg Mulder. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Okay, properly moved and passed. We will get those uploaded to our website after today's meeting and have those available for consumption there. Next in our packet and our agenda is item D. It's our normal business to approve all the administrative actions, and in this case, 2 amendments to the SEDA COG MPO tip. The District 2 adjustments occur on pages 8 to 11. They're reflected there, and probably the best way to do this would be have a motion on the amendment first. That appears on page 10. And then after we have discussion and approval of that, we'll ask Mark Schultz to give an overview of the administrative action, kind of the normal course of business and processing of adjustments to the costs on the various projects reflected there. So, Mark, would you like to highlight the amendment in Mifflin County, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Steve. Mifflin County SR 103 Delaware Avenue Railroad warning device. This is a railroad crossing near Juniata Terrace that's been brought to our attention by both SEDA COG Joint Rail Authority and North Shore Railroad, Juniata Valley Railroad in that location, as an area of interest and an area of concern and upgrade. The interest is to move federal Section 130 funds to the Delaware Avenue Railroad crossing for an upgrade of lights and circuitry at that location. That's all I would have unless there are questions.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark on the rail upgrades there in Mifflin County? Okay, if not, we would look for a motion to approve the SEDA COG amendment using the railroad safety funds for the upgrades to the circuitry and signal.
Brad Kerstetter, motion to approve.
Okay, thank you much, Brad, for the motion. Greg was raising his arm, so Greg Mulder will give you the second if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay, Greg with the second, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? And any abstentions? Okay, the motion has passed. Mark, also, you want to highlight any other summaries for the administrative actions in pages 8 to 11?
On page 8, I'd like to identify the T439 over Kish Creek. This is a local bridge project, the local bridge project that had funding needs. And the funds in the administrative action will support this project and allow it to proceed towards a construction phase in 2024. And probably a bid letting in 24 and a construction phase in 25. You also see an adjustment there for the East Charles Street railroad. That's East Charles Street Road resurfacing project. It's an increase that will cover construction costs for this year. That resurfacing project will be taking place this spring. And moving down into those, we had the high friction surface on page 9. We have a box culvert need for utility phase funds to be able to complete the relocate utilities in that area for the Clinton County 1010 AO2 project. And an adjustment or addition of the final design phase for stop 35 towards Sheets area. It's a resurfacing of 35 improvements throughout that area. Final design phase was necessary because we have a consultant engineer and there are federal funds involved in the project. I think that is just about everything that I have at this time, Steve. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mark. Any other discussion on the modifications for District 2? If not, we look for a motion to approve the administrative actions for District 2.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Steve. Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Brad Kerstetter, second.
Brad, thank you for the second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion has passed. Thank you for that. We're onward in the packet to the District 3 modifications. Those begin on page 12, run through page 24. A lot of processing here that John's been doing. There is an amendment again, this time in District 3. That's kind of crosses over on pages 20 to 21. That's to pick up the vulnerable road user pedestrian countdown timers with that focus to help get us more in line with our performance measures for crashes and hopefully reduce the number of pedestrian crashes throughout the state with that focus on pedestrian countdown timers that can be installed and have a strong benefit there and be done and deployed quickly all across the state. So that'll be the amendment. And John, would you like to highlight anything additional on that and the locations that are being addressed?
Basically, I think it's multiple locations. I don't know much. It's kind of just came through, recently. And, we got some on 11, and then I believe there's some other locations too at the local, a bit more deeper in the project. But again, nothing more really to add, Steve, than what you put out there as far as the program.
Great. And we did have the scoping field view in a prior meeting. We had the amendment for the locations in PennDOT District 2. So those are being worked on. I know Steve, you were on that virtual call, and some of those are being done on Hogan Boulevard. So we're glad to see that. That was an area that we had more in-depth study recently through the PennDOT Connects funding. And so, yeah, this is great to get these funds out there and get these countdown timers and signal equipment in place. And potentially with that one, maybe we'll be picking up some crosswalk markings and things as well to have a greater visibility for pedestrians. So appreciate the districts and what you're doing and central office on these funds. So any other discussion on the amendment for the pedestrian countdown signals in District 3? If not, we would look for a motion to approve the amendment. We have a motion by Greg Mulder. Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve, for the second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? And any abstentions? Great, thank you. It's passed. We'll do our processing with the E-steps and get that off for these amendments after today's meeting. Thank you. The other items, as I said, run from page 12 to 24. And John, if there's any particular highlights you want to give to the members on these actions?
The one thing I will point out is on page 14, multimodal funds were added for Hospital Drive Roundabout and pedestrian connectivity. So if the Kelly Township's got their funding, all set, and we're hoping seeing a nice roundabout behind EVAN there here in the near future. I won't go any real depth in any detail because there is so many, but basically the gist is catching up where we are with the program, finding any funding, decreases that I can, realize, through savings, and then dealing with basically all the increases that have been happening. We've been seeing them almost daily, I want to say, as far as what projects get turned in to us as of late. So, so far we're compensating okay. There's a lot of lets that are happening in the next few months and have happened. Some have been okay. Some we've had to adjust to, but again, that's basically what you're seeing here is the adjustments to the increases. It's been even pre-construction stuff as well, as I think we're overloading a bit of the consultants with how much work we've been putting out, that we're starting to see prices go up with them as well. As I said before, I did predict that a little bit when I did do the tip, but I wasn't really predicting, a 10% plus increase in construction costs. But we're holding out for right now. Nothing significantly has been deferred or delayed. And I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Are there certain materials that are much worse than others right now?
I haven't looked lately. I know, the steel and, coated steel and all that had risen. Asphalt has risen. Those are the two kind of major, things we deal with. But I haven't looked lately to see where, what has risen the greatest as of late. So, but I've been too busy actually trying just to keep up with all the increases that have been coming in.
Great. Thanks for what you're doing to hold the ground and avoid deferrals as much as possible. So appreciate all the work you're doing on the financial side there to manage them. And we did have later on in the packet, you'll see at least the press release on the District 3 planned construction projects for the season. So those are noted, some of the more prominent ones within your counties, you'll see there listed. So hopefully all those continue and all those bids come in at a good point for those. Thank you, Don. Any questions or discussion on the administrative actions for District 3? If not, we would look for a motion to approve the administrative actions for PennDOT District 3.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mulder. Thank you, Greg.
Second.
Oh, sorry, is that Eric? Thank you, Eric, for the second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? And any abstentions? Okay, great. Thank you for your review of that. And again, as a reminder, we shared in the advanced packet the web map that Bryce is doing. It's kind of a guide for all of these, so hopefully you're clicking on that link and have a chance to look at it. We do have it ready that we can bring up on the screen if anybody has questions they want to discuss here today, but I think that's a good guide and it helps to zero in on the locations of the projects and the major essential details versus just a text or a narrative version. So if you do have any ideas or any thoughts on that, feel free to let us know, but hopefully that web map is helping to guide you through these actions and these adjustments. Also in this section of the packet, page 25, we have our normal reporting on projects that were previously approved for adding to the TIP, but maybe didn't have final action or award of funding. And just to call out there, the second project, the Stevens Grove Industrial Park Road. Since our last meeting, we had learned about the additional Appalachian Regional Commission local access road funding that was approved for that. And Stevens Grove Borough, that's an additional 852,000 and change noted in bold on your far right column there. So we're glad to hear of that. The borough has also applied for PennDOT multimodal funding again for the round that closed in November. Those are under review, but as we're led to believe the ask would be less now because of the additional ARC funding. So hopefully that all comes together and that project can meet the let date right now, July next year. So anything additional, John, you want to share that one?
I don't have an update on that one, Steve, but I'll get an update next time.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know Aaron and Chris works closely on those and tracks everything and works hand in hand with the project sponsors. So hopefully that full funding picture comes together and we'll see that approved. And then some of the additional development is planned in that industrial park and additional jobs will be coming online. The second one there, the ARC local access road in Milton Borough. That one has let date a little bit further out, so we'll continue to track and monitor that. And hopefully all the permitting issues are being addressed. There's been some things that have held that up a little bit, kind of on the wetland and the threatened endangered species side. So as we have more updates, we'll share those. So that takes us through item D, unless there's any other questions or comments. Great, then we're on to our typical reporting and the great updates we get to hear from John on the CSVP project and the State Route 54 Safety Project in Montour County. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Steve, and good morning, everybody, again. We're going to start with the northern section real quick. 8 overhead sign structures will be installed this spring in the Montanan and Winfield area. Work is anticipated to be completed in June. Traffic is using the northern section effectively. We just submitted our we just got our financial plan approved for 2022. The total estimated project cost has increased from 903 million to 938 million. The 35 million increase is almost exclusively the result of inflation and as follows. For the southern section, the earthwork contract, the current estimated cost based on actual bids received March 2022 is roughly 6 million greater than the estimated cost reported in our 2021 update. This increase was previously covered by the allocation of additional National Highway Performance Program funds to the project. For the southern section for the southern section structure and pavement contracts, we updated the estimated cost based on actual unit costs for highway and bridge construction items that we observed in 2022, which were impacted by inflation rates significantly greater than the 3% that we normally assume in cost estimating. The current estimated cost of the 2 future contracts combined is roughly 28 million greater than the estimated cost reported in our 2021 update. This increase will be more than covered by the 69 million in discretionary federal funds that were recently awarded to the CSVT from the Rural Service Transportation Grant Program under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. So that was our 2022 update. And again, I don't think terribly many people are surprised that inflation bit us there as well.
What was the component you said was going to be finished by June?
The overhead
on
sign.
the overhead signs, on the northern. on
The
northern
overhead
section,
signs.
Yes,
On the Winfield.
in Winfield and Montana area. So when you go past Montana, we'll probably have signs, again, highlighting, directional as far as, going
Yeah,
on
you see them laying on
405
the road.
and, as far as staying on 147.
Gotcha.
Continuing with the southern section earthwork contract, construction of the first contract to complete most of the 4.5 million cubic yards of earthwork began May 2022 and is expected to be completed in March of 2025. As of today, the project is completed 17% based on the cost and 29% based on time. Less than 10% of the earthwork has been completed. Work to date includes clearing and grubbing, excavation, construction of embankments, construction of drainage facilities, including cast-in-place box culverts and large pipes, construction of erosion and sedimentation facilities, realignment of local roadways, relocation of various utilities. A new structure on a local road, Sunbury Road, will be constructed over the CSVT main line in 2023. Mass excavation is scheduled to begin relatively soon. Moving on to the southern structure contract, we continue to wrap up plans for the 9 new bridges that will be included in the southern section structures contract, and we are starting to prepare specifications and other bidding documents for that contract. We are continuing to anticipating letting that contract later this year and starting work on the structures next year. Southern section paving contract, which will be the final contract for the southern section. At this time, we are also advancing plans for the southern section paving contract. We are particularly focused on refining accesses, modifications needed for properties adjacent to CSVT's southern interchange with existing Route 1115 and 522 in order to accommodate safe traffic movements on all 4 quadrants of that interchange. We are coordinating with affected property owners as we start to develop the plans for the partial right-of-way acquisitions required to accommodate those access modifications. That's all I have on the CSVT update. Any questions?
Thank you, John, for all your balance in there. It's a major project and there's been a lot of things throughout and cost increases of late affecting it. So any questions for John on the CSVT project?
I've got one real quick. This is Link. Morning, everybody. The only thing I keep getting asked is, so we still have acquisitions to make?
I think we have some partial acquisitions to make right there in that 522 area.
Okay.
So there is a few, yes.
Okie dokie. Thanks, Jonathan.
Welcome.
Any other questions for John? I know you briefed Greg, I think a little bit, but anything you want to share on the SR 54
I do have
safety
an
project?
update for the 54s and 642 realignment. Preliminary right-of-way plan has been approved and final right-of-way plan is anticipated to be submitted in early April 2023. The waterway permit has been approved for stream crossings. The MPDES permit has been submitted and is currently in technical review with the PADEP. ENS plan has been approved by Montour County Conservation District. Some modifications to stormwater management design were needed, which impacted the right-of-way plan. We are in the process of organizing an update meeting with the Community Access Committee to be held early summer of 2023. This will include an update on the progress of the final design and review of the general construction sequence. After the project is bid, the contractor will be responsible to holding meeting to review their anticipated construction sequence, including any changes to the sequence previously provided by the design team. The project is currently scheduled to be let in the spring of 2024. Due to the funding and innovative intersection design, the approval from FHWA is required and final design is anticipated in the fall of 2023. And that is all I have for the 54, 642 realignment.
Thank you, John. Any questions or comments for John on the SR 54 safety project? You got a thumbs up from Lisa. That certainly is a corridor that has had some issues, so thanks for the work on it. Okay, next is item F of our agenda, begins on page 27. First thing we usually do in our work program update is the staff activity report. So there's been a lot happening and going on that's reflected here. various links that are available for your download and clicking and reviewing. So I'll just go through and highlight a couple. First, the Middle Susquehanna Regional Bike Ped Plan. We had noted last time with Bryce coming on board and facilitating and managing that committee. The first meeting was held on February the 15th. We had some good discussion and updates, and the future meetings will occur in May, August, and November. The May meeting, we do have plans for Trish Meek, the statewide bike ped coordinator, to present some updates for the group. So if you want to hear some of the latest and greatest on the statewide perspective, please join that meeting. The link will be shared, or has been shared already with the whole committee, but if anybody else wants it, feel free to let us know. Down in Mark Calusi and Lonnie's neck of the woods, they've been working hard on a draft Mifflin County active transportation plan with, again, a Fleming consultant team. It's on the docket to be presented at the March 22nd County Planning Commission meeting for acceptance, and then also by the county commissioners. So we wanted to note that, and then when we have the finalized plan, we'll be sure to share the link with the full MPO for your review. But Mark, is there anything, Lucy, anything you wanted to highlight on the active transportation plan?
Well, no, I appreciate the opportunity there, Steve. So this particular plan, we had the intent to try to mirror what the SEDA COG regional plan was. We had the benefit that we were able to use the same consultant that developed the regional plan. So, hopefully it will integrate very nicely when it comes to that. We had some really nice participation from the public, and really ended up with a really great product that will really pave the way for some of the things we'd like to do in the county going forward. So I really appreciate that opportunity to do that particular project. PennDOT really helped us out there with helping us find the funds to do that, and have been good partners with being able to review different pieces and give us good input on it. So it's really been a great project, and looking forward to seeing it get implemented. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thanks for your commitment to that planning process. And again, as we have the final plan, we'll make sure that's in the updated information for the May MPO meeting, so you can check that out. On the tip side of things, we have some discussion on that later on the agenda for the Transportation Improvement Program, 12-year program update. But just suffice to say, we've been actively engaging in that, and also at a statewide level through the Financial Guidance Work Group, our involvement, participation in that process to set the funding allocations for the tip update and what's going to be followed there. So we'll continue to report more on that. On the long range plan side of things, we do have there noted there's an online dashboard that's being produced for us by our Michael Baker consulting team. We've been meeting with them and having work sessions over the past couple months, and it's really making good progress. So probably at May, we'll have a chance to present that to the MPO. You can kind of see that nice visual tool and enhancement of how we're tracking performance measures related to the long range plan, and some additional ones that we tack on beyond what are federally or state required. So hopefully you'll find that of value, and it'll be a good resource for the public and other stakeholders to check out as well. So be a lot of visuals and charts and pictures, and a bunch of other links that integrated within that dashboard. So that'll come back for May. Page 28, on the electric vehicle side of things, just wanted to highlight, we have been promoting the state round of the NEVI, or the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program. There were some revisions to that notice of funding opportunity based on some of the federal regulations and guidance. So Monday of this week is when that revised funding opportunity was published on PennDOT's website. The link's included there on page 28, and that's open for applications from March 27th to May 5th. Additionally, a little bit earlier this week, we had shared out with the full MPO the new Federal Highway Administration charging and fueling infrastructure grant announcement. So those applications are due by May 30th, and that has a little bit more flexibility. You don't have to be on an alternative fuel corridor, the interstates or interstate lookalikes essentially that are on that. So other community program interests and concerns and locations can be applied for under that program. So again, the applications are due by May 30th for that. We updated the staff report for the next meeting to reflect that, since it was a little bit late coming for today's business. On page 29, the multimodal funding applications, we referenced earlier, the Sealands Grove one was in. There were 10 others, a total of 11 from the SEDA COG MPO that were submitted to PennDOT. Staff has reviewed those and prepared draft comments that are included in your packet here today. The comments from the MPO are due by March 31st. So we look for, if there's anything you want to bring out today on the local side that you're aware of related to those applications, feel free to let us know, or you do have a little bit of time after the meeting if you need to digest that or take a closer look at what's being proposed. Feel free to let us know so we can reflect that. We did, coordinate with the districts and got their comments in advance, as well as we were building ours on behalf of the MPO. The DCD multimodal fund, at least when I checked yesterday, I didn't see the grant announcement, but the CFA board meeting was yesterday, and we'll check again later today or maybe next week and see if they published those approvals. We know that there were some went in. I'm sure there are additional ones that we weren't aware of from the region, but hopefully those will be coming online with the awards of the DCD pot. And then the new round of DCD multimodal is open March through July. On page 30, PennDOT Connects. We did promote the upcoming municipal outreach and peer exchange workshops, share those with the members. The links are also there. You can register for those. Just put that plug out if you want to hit those. District 2 allows in-person or virtual, and the District 3 session on May 25th will be fully virtual, but recommend those. You can learn from best practices and examples from your peers. And then also there will be a highlight on funding opportunities as part of these sessions from the bipartisan law, a focus on the electric vehicle infrastructure, grant options, and I think DCD and DCNR will giving some funding updates as well. So put that plug in. Please register for the District 2 session on May 4th or the District 3 on May 25th if you're available. Page 31. The U.S. bicycle route application, I wanted to highlight that. That came in since our last meeting. Trish Meek, the statewide coordinator, was helping to prepare an application to the National Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials to designate U.S. Bicycle Route 11. And you see the bicycle PA routes that are listed there and the counties affected in that section, and also a copy of our support letter is included in this section of the packet. So hopefully that comes together and can get that designated, that kind of north-south piece of those bicycle PA routes becoming part of the U.S. Bicycle Route 11. So it could help with tourism and economic development, and certainly for accommodations of bicycle travel throughout our region. So we're glad to see that that's being submitted. On the bottom of that page, SEDA COG MPO newsletter, we're working on the spring edition. So that should come out here hopefully later this month. Look for that in your inboxes. And page 32, a couple to highlight here briefly. The census urban areas. As you know, the 2020 census was completed. Every go around, there's urban areas that are designated as part of that process. Census Bureau changed some of its criteria for what went into that with the population density and the household density, and their criteria for kind of like jumps and skips of how they look at different pockets for urban consideration. We do have links included there. You can see what changed from 2010 to 2020. But one result was our largest urban area, the Williamsburg-Berwick urban area, was separated out a little bit. The section on Route 11 disconnected the Danville, Hunting Township, Riverside from the larger Williamsburg-Berwick urban area. So that dropped our population total below 50,000, which has traditionally been an urbanized area. If you followed the lexicon and terminology in the past and what required MPO designation for those urbanized areas. But we've got confirmation from PennDOT and Federal Highway Administration that even though that reduction occurred, we can remain as an MPO, conduct our normal processes, for metropolitan transportation planning. So you're glad to see that and how that's consistent with the federal regulations and rulemakings on this. So it shouldn't cause major issues or hiccups with our normal processes that we've learned of to date, but we can share more information in the future. But if you've engaged in that at a local level on some of the analysis or data, you've probably seen a little bit on some of the things the census has tweaked with its processes for every 10 years. And again, the map links are there if you want to see what changed, and how they modified the urban area boundaries at all. On the LTAP side of things, Don Keel is with us today, and he's been doing a lot of promotion and scheduling of LTAP sessions. And in addition to our equipment operator training, kind of that hands-on piece that we coordinate with Pennsylvania College of Technology, Don has scheduled a chainsaw safety workshop for July on the 26th as well. So that'd be another great kind of practical and hands-on session. And so we'll get folks from throughout the region public works crews registered for that, and has some great benefit in addition to the normal LTAP roster of classes that we can do through PennDOT. And then one final thing, I'll just turn over to Bryce quickly before any comments from the members. The major employer and critical facilities data that he and our intern have been working on building, and thanks to you and your counties for supplying your latest data sets. Anything you want to highlight on that, Bryce?
Yeah, so Matt's been working on that for the last couple months. We're almost done, hopefully in the next week or two. But I know he reached out to all the GIS analysts at the different counties. But we're doing a pretty bigger update than we usually do. We're cleaning the data so it matches from each county. So we'll have just like the county, the municipality, the full name, stuff like that. Hopefully addresses later on. And that way we can send the full data set out to everybody, just to have that, as one streamlined data layer instead of, just a couple. So happy with where it's at. And if you have any, input when we send that out, please let us know.
Sure. Thank you, Bryce, for the enhancements there and consistency with the data, and that'll again be used for regional purposes, for the long range plan, for TIP and otherwise. So we can consult that for a variety of uses. So thanks for supplying that to us. Any other questions about the staff report or anything we did not touch on? Can you hit the chat, please, Michelle? Noting anything in the chat that we need to bring to the attention of the group? Matt Wise from Senator Yarl's office, thank you, has let us all know the approved CFA multimodal projects are now uploaded to DCD's page. So you can kind of check those out and see by county or applicant if you want to review what was approved from the last round. Thank you, Matt.
Is there a deadline for comments on the multimodal?
Yeah, I mentioned March 31st.
No, for them to
The
get
members,
on.
okay. If everyone could by next week, I think would be acceptable. Today's what, the 17th? So next Friday be the 24th. No later than next Friday, if that works for anyone. If there's anything you think of after today, please supply those to Kristen or myself for the multimodal comments. Thank you. The TA set aside normal reporting is in the packet. And then also the traffic impact study scoping applications, a lot of new developments and proposals throughout the region, and the highway occupancy permits are in this section as well. And again, that US bicycle route that I mentioned, there's a map. You can see the color coding there and what would be picked up by the proposed US bicycle route 11. We complete that and have it from New York to Maryland, picking up the Pennsylvania component. And then our support letter, excuse me, that went off to PennDOT to support that application. As we learn more or hear about the results, we'll be sure to keep you in the loop and share the outcomes of that. And then the multimodal comments, as we shared, start on page 40 for those 11 applications. And that is the finality of what's in the packet on that section. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, everyone. We're up to agenda item G. This will be an action item, kind of like last meeting when we approved the statewide targets for safety performance measures. Now we're up for the annual target setting on the pavement bridge and system performance or reliability performance measures. And beginning your packet, page 44, and Kristen is going to highlight this and then the action from the MPO.
Sure. So in your packet is a letter from PennDOT regarding the performance measures 2 and 3, which involve pavement and bridge condition, as well as the NHS travel reliability and effectiveness of the CMAQ program. Some of the PM3 components are not applicable to the SEDA COG region. They're much more for urbanized areas such as Lancaster, York, Philadelphia areas. And those would be the annual hours of peak hour excess delay per capita, the percent of non-single occupant vehicle travel, and on-road mobile source emission reduction for CMAQ funded projects. Those aren't applicable to the SEDA COG region, but all of the PM2 are and the first 3 of the PM3. And the packet also not only includes that letter from PennDOT, but it has 2 attachments. The first provides the summary of the 2018 through 2021 performance and target information that will be incorporated into future LRTP and TIP documents. But the SEDA COG region has exceeded the PM3 targets for the period, and we did not receive any MPO specific PM2 data. We've been working on how that information gets disseminated. The second attachment provides a summary of the 2022 to 2025 baseline period versus baseline values and targets for the measures as established by PennDOT. And the MPO must establish targets for the PM2 and PM3 measures by June 14th for the 2022-2025 period. And the MPO can agree to plan and program projects in support of PennDOT's targets, so essentially adopting their targets and using those for the MPO targets, or we can commit to our own targets. Obviously, we'd be recommending that we agree to the PennDOT targets. But if there's any discussion on these components or otherwise, a motion to establish the MPO targets as the PennDOT targets, or whichever you choose. Is there any discussion on this item?
Is there any benefit to us establishing our own targets when PennDOT has established a fairly comprehensive list?
None that we're aware of. Really, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, I think does. I'm not sure of any others, but that's the Philadelphia area, and they have a huge team and a lot of statisticians and modelers and technical know-how and capabilities. Maybe for them and for certain localized things they want to consider or look at or be more ambitious or aggressive on, but otherwise, no, none that we're aware of.
Then there's no reason for us to reinvent the wheel. There's no objection. I'll move that we accept the PennDOT targets.
Okay, thank you, Greg, for the motion. Do we have a second?
So Sean, I'll second.
Thank you, Sean, for the second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. We'll get the letter off to PennDOT and confirm that. And thanks, Kristen, for going through that. That one could be even more technical than the safety performance measures. So there's a lot to kind of digest and understand there. So there are, as we're talking with our long range plan consultant, more powerful data sets becoming available to the MPOs and RPOs. So we'll look forward to getting full access to that. Some of these travel time and data sets that come through major vendors like INRIX and others that we can access and take a look at and plan for our operations, on our network. So look forward to using those tools and seeing what we can report out to the members in the future. Okay, next is also Kristen for the road safety reviews.
Sure. The packet includes a draft report of the road safety reviews. Since the last MPO meeting, we held 2 virtual reviews, one for Clinton County and one for Snyder County. Those we're looking at in Snyder County, the area of Route 11 between Shamokin Dam and Northumberland, a particular section there that's had a high crash value, and the 522 intersection at Salem Road and University Avenue. That was a site that was included in the Route 522 corridor study, and that was also the location that a roundabout is proposed for further study and hopeful implementation. And so we looked at those places, and then in Clinton County, we looked at a few sites on Route 144, which has a high crash value, as well as two other ones, one on Route 64 and one on Route 880. And the final report will be issued with location maps and some additional information. But the process was very helpful in identifying some locations throughout the region that could benefit from some mostly low-cost improvements that will hopefully lead to a reduction in future crashes. And so thank you to everyone. A lot of the planning folks throughout the counties participated, but we also had a lot of people from PennDOT participate, and their input and suggestions were very helpful and eye-opening for me as new in this HSIP world and learning the different road treatments that can be applied to that significantly reduce crashes in these areas. So hopefully these will lead to some future implementation and HSIP funding.
Krista, will there be an opportunity, I know you were present when we did the Montour County intersection we were talking about. There has been some information lately that new business is looking to go in that location, which may significantly increase traffic at that intersection.
Yes.
Jonathan and I were talking a little earlier before the meeting. We'll have an opportunity to address those issues prior to implementation of anything that takes place there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. This
Okay.
is an idea generating component. And certainly when we were out there on site, and I believe I mentioned it in my brief synopsis of that location, is that there's a lot of opportunity for growth in that corridor. And right now we just don't know what that is or where it will be or what it will look like and how that will impact that particular intersection. And so really planning for or considering options for that location is really dependent on that future development.
Well, I would definitely keep you involved in any updates that we get.
Great, thank you.
I have a quick question about the report, if I may.
Sure.
As you look through the report, there are certain findings and recommendations that are redacted. Can you explain why that is?
Some of the information that we were able to have came from confidential information via PennDOT that dealt with the specific crashes and what occurred there. And so that's pretty much what it was. Those are the items is what PennDOT would not, PennDOT says, don't disseminate this information. And Steve, maybe you have some additional comments on it.
Sure, yeah, that's something you'll sometimes see in engineering or traffic studies as well, where there's confidentiality, concerns or provisions based on the crash data and how that's reported publicly. And that falls in line with, state regulations and legislation. John or Mark, if there's anything additional you want to share on that, feel free, but.
You pretty much covered it.
Sure.
This is stuff we can't show to everybody that we're not by law allowed to know.
Are these like the police reports and data that we talked about a little bit for some
Yeah,
of these?
essentially summary of them. I mean, it doesn't identify everything that we have, but a lot of them are very specific about what crash occurred, how many vehicles were involved.
So the generalities of that information are included in the other recommendations then?
Yeah, where we list what the proposed treatments and improvements would be, but not the nuances of the crash data. And so anything that you can access through the Pennsylvania Crash Information Tool is fair game, and that's out there at the public domain and data set. But there's some things that we got from collision diagrams, the crash resumes, in particular that we used as part of this process. But where we're noting the treatments, that's something we'll plan through either the tip development process Sometimes if we can pick it up with an already scheduled or programmed project, sometimes maybe there's something even maintenance wise that can be done with PennDOT district forces. Those are fair to report on and comment on here.
And for example, if you're seeing a lot of crashes in a particular area, some of the data is time of crashes, road condition, was it day or night, that type of thing. And so if you're in an area where you're seeing a whole lot of crashes when it's wet and dark, that leads to specific potential projects and treatments that could address that. If most of the crashes are occurring under certain conditions, or maybe it's all speeding, or maybe it's all or largely different, rear end crashes. Well, how can we affect those? And so some of that
Right.
information
I certainly understand the type of information and reasoning behind. I just was just trying to figure out why it would even be included if it's information that's not widely available. But that's fine. You've answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
And again, thank you for everyone who participated in the field views, either out there in the field or virtually. And like Kristen said, this isn't a one point in time, it's done. It's fluid, and we're always trying to address safety. That's the core focus of all our planning processes, and to reduce the number of crashes and severe injuries across the region. So we continue to plug away on these. Several good ideas were generated as part of the collaborative process, and we'll be tracking the implementation of those and the best usage of our HSIP funding within the region, and then the statewide kind of set asides as well. Great. If there's no further discussion on agenda item H, I did want to note something I failed to mention at the outset in kind of our introductions. I wanted to give deference that those of you, especially in District 2, who are familiar with Tom Zarat. District 2, he's been the district executive for the last couple of years, and before that was in the design unit as the assistant district executive and other senior positions within PennDOT District 2. But he is retiring at the end of this month, so we'll miss him sorely and all that he's contributed. But I wanted to highlight that and also thank him for all his service. He's attended MPO meetings in the past and been a great partner for us in his leadership at PennDOT District 2. So I did want to highlight that. And Mark Schultz shared with us here today, there's been an announcement of a replacement. So Mark, I didn't know if you wanted to take this opportunity to share with the members who the new district executive is going to be at District 2.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Steve. Yes, Tom will be missed. Tom's always been a active part of our design and planning process. He will be missed within the district. Upon his retirement in March 31st and initiated in April 1st, District 2 will be receiving District Executive Tom Prestash from existing District Executive from District 9 Hollidaysburg area. So we'll be receiving a District Executive with experience in a district with experience within MPO and MPO relations, and from what I understand, also an active part within the planning process as well. So we look forward to those future opportunities.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, we've gotten to know Tom some through the larger planning partner networking and planning partner meetings, and he always offers great input and has close relations to others that we've worked with within District 2. So that's good as well to have that familiarity. So we're on to agenda item I, page 69 of your packet. As I referenced earlier, the 12-year program updates ongoing. We've been sharing information as it comes out from the State Transportation Commission on the public surveying, and also as we've been holding the county prioritization meetings that Bryce will touch on more in a moment for the TIP development. But in your packet, we have the news release from PennDOT and a fact sheet on the 12-year program update. So again, we'll be finalizing hopefully the financial guidance for this TIP update and kind of the general and procedural guidance that establishes everything that needs to be followed with the tip updates cycle and sequence. Hopefully this spring, maybe May, hopefully have those all set and finalized. We'll be preparing the timeline as we usually do to guide the tip development and the major milestones throughout. We'll be sharing with the group, looking at the carryover projects from the tip and new cost estimates for those, and looking at the opportunity for new projects that can be added throughout the region. So we'll be having more close outreach and coordination with PennDOT districts and central office on that process, and working with you all on the local bridge side and other recommendations you have to include. Throughout the fall, winter, be kind of that revising of the carryovers and candidate projects, and probably early next year we'll have a draft version of the tip to share with everyone. And then the spring time frame is where it'll be opened up to the public for general comment opportunities, and march toward a probably June of 2024 adoption of the tip to cover us for federal fiscal years 2025 to 2028. So that's just kind of timeline outlook for it. But on the State Transportation Commission side, the public comment is open right now, and that runs through April 30th. So hopefully y'all can take a look at that and participate. It's very easy, very convenient. You can go in and take the general survey to prioritize investments. You can use the interactive web map and drop points for concerns or issues that you're aware of. And those will be evaluated for the tip development, and also with already existing plan projects and how they can be related to those. There'll be an online public forum April 12th. That's always in the evening to allow the general public to hopefully participate and have a Q&A session, hear from senior executives within PennDOT and the State Transportation Commission Board. That'll be recorded as well. So yeah, we'd like to highlight that, opportunity and information, and we've been getting pretty good results the last couple of rounds, I think, and participation. We've seen several safety, bicycle, pedestrian, transit needs and interests submitted by the public. So just put the recommendation out there to go ahead and hit that and take advantage of this resource. Probably May, June, it looks like on the timeline is where we'll get the results from the State Transportation Commission. We'll get Excel data, shape files, that we can take a look at the information here and compare. And then there'll be an interactive web map that you can look at all across the region. And typically you can check the boxes on or off if you want to look at certain types of recommendations that were made, if you're more interested in that, or by county. So we'll share more of those details as they come online with the public comment process. So any questions on the larger 12-year program update or elements that are involved with that? If not, more to follow. And we've had a couple of the local bridge prioritization meetings already, but the additional ones are scheduled. And so Bryce is going to kind of highlight how that process is working and the outlook going forward.
Yeah, so if you go to item J in your packet, page 73, we have the listing of all of the local bridge prioritization meetings for the different counties. Like Steve said, we've already done 3, Juniata, Mifflin, and Columbia. For those who attended those, please expect meeting minutes within the next week as I get those, all sorted out. Upcoming in the future, we got Snyder and Union in March, and then in April, Clinton, Montour, Northumberland, and then Berwick and Boothburg having their own separate thing from Columbia's. So thank you to all of those who filled out the doodle poll and communicated with me to get these set up. Really helped me out. The goal is to get these finalized here by September, have that complete listing, and then get that approved by the MPO at the September meeting. Steve, do you know the exact date?
The 15th would be the MPO meeting. Yep.
And then send those out to PennDOT. So again, thanks for your cooperation during this, and it's appreciated.
Great. Thank you, Bryce, and thank you to all the county members. There's always a lot happens in the interim since we prepare prepare those prioritized lists, new inspection reports, come online, new developments, maybe some other land use changes or postings to the bridges. So this is part of our way to capture all that and get your latest data and information so we can feed that into the prioritization process. And so it'll be the Survey Monkey tool will go out to everyone. We'll take advantage of that again to capture your local information and your top priorities. And that'll then be fed into the decision lens and scoring and the normal outputs that we have with the tables to be generated. And then in close coordination with the districts to see what kind of new projects can be added and consider all your latest estimates on what you proposed previously. So thank you again so much for that. And hopefully the inflation gets under control here and we'll be able to add several additional local bridges. We usually try to add at least 1 to 2 per county. So hopefully we can continue that trend.
Bryce, will you have an updated status report on those bridges that have already been accepted for construction or removal?
I think we do. Do we have those included in the packet, Steve?
Usually we'll have included the Larson Design Group, for Columbia Montour at least, and then they'll bring to the meeting sometimes the latest that we don't have reporting that we can share. We talk about the status of the ones that are on there, either that they're aware of, where they are in the bidding process, or that the districts are aware of. And I think for years, Brian Miller, the local bridge kind of coordinator, he's well versed in where things stand on that. And if Aaron Christ is there on the removal bundle, he can address the latest on where that stands.
I had heard that there's one of our bridges that wasn't our top priority was being addressed this coming month. And I didn't want to confuse the rest of our team with, well, we still have to hold this as a number 1 priority when it's already going to be taken care of. Okay, thank you.
Yep, yeah, so that'll be ferreted out in the discussion we'll be having with you on
All right.
April 11th. Great, thank you. And we have been coordinating also within District 3, the Northern Tier Rural Planning Organization has one to kind of tap what we've done in the past and as a model. So we've been giving them information and resources that they can kind of take this as a model of, the success of what you've all brought to this and what we've done here locally with local bridges. So thanks for your investment in the process. Any other questions on the local bridges or the TIP development? Okay, if not, as a verbal also from Bryce on the Active Transportation Committee.
Yeah, so like Steve mentioned earlier, during our February meeting, I officially took over Catherine's position with the MSATC, and I've been talking closely with Corey Ellison, who is the vice chair from Susquehanna Greenway, to coordinate future plans for the org. The main goals as of right now are to get the work groups back up and running that kind of stalled out during COVID, and then to create an Esri Hub site as a better repository of our data. So right now we have it all hosted on the SEDA COG website, but having more interactive graphs and charts and maps just to show what we're doing as an org. But right now, just stay tuned for more details as we're working through that stuff, and as we revamp the committee. So if you have any questions, let me or Corey know, and we can go from there.
Thank you, Bryce. I do see maybe a new name or two, but just for our minutes or maybe associations, Heather, would you mind unmuting and letting us know who you are, Heather Norton?
Heather Norton from Columbia County, standing in for Mike McWilliams.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate you being involved. We'll have a reference to kind of an interest item later on that would pertain to Heather's bailiwick. Thank you. Okay, we're up to item L. This is our member forum. We have some interest items that we typically include in here for your review and some links. I'll just mention probably one of these, page 76, the State College Area Connector. I know particularly The folks in the District 2 region are interested in that one. That planning and environmental linkage study was released to the public and is available for comment through March 19th. So if you want to head to the website or check anything out with that report or how to offer comments, please feel free to do so. But that 322 corridor throughout Center County and the safety and mobility upgrades there that have been evaluated and looked at. Otherwise, I think on their self-explanatory items for the interest items report, additional ones, just to note, we have some press releases from PennDOT, page 78. As I talked about earlier, the announcement on the planned projects for the construction season in District 3 are listed there. The biggest hitters, the most significant projects across the region and then by county. And then like Heather is joining us here today, and John, we did want to note page 81, we have the Department Forest projects that are planned in District 3 by county. You can kind of take a look at the seal code and paving operations that are planned to be done by the department's force or workers. And there were, I think, a couple updates within Columbia and Montour and Northumberland counties that changed since we received this and shared it with the packet. So a couple of those locations may have dropped off or been revised since we had shared that. So John or Heather, was there anything additional you wanted to discuss about the planned Department Force work?
No, I'm good.
No, I have nothing further. And if there's any questions for Northumberland, Snyder, or Union, why, let us know and we'll try to answer them.
Okay, thank you, John. Yeah, great leveraging of the resources and the manpower the districts have there to complete those activities. So if there are any questions from the county members about the location, please feel free to raise them now or follow up with us afterward. Okay. Another news release we had here was on the liquid fuels distribution. So if you did not see those, the allocations were announced by the state and the listings by municipality are available for download. If you're interested, you can check those out from PennDOT's website. And then we had a fact sheet on the shared ride public transportation sustainability study that we were alerted to. So that I think will be concluding this spring, but really looking at the financial side of things, that the revenues are not in line with the cost there. So looking at different options for shared ride services across the Commonwealth, hopefully be some solutions and some answers there to improve the sustainability of that. So at this point, we're into any other general discussion, questions, comments that anyone has, or anything that I hadn't been tracking in the chat that anybody wants to reference?
Hey, Steve, this is Sean. I have a question about District 3. Has there been a new chief traffic engineer named to replace Alan Keller, a permanent one?
There has not been yet. Zach White Knight is still in the interim.
Okay, thank you, John. Any other questions or discussion items? Was there a comment there? It looked like somebody was highlighted on the phone.
That was probably me just clearing my throat, Steve.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Frank.
You're looking for a motion to adjourn, I'll give it.
Okay, thank you, Frank, for that motion. Appreciate getting in on that. Do we have a second to adjourn the March meeting?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Greg. All in favor, please say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, we will reconvene on May 19th and look forward to seeing you on Memorial Day. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, be safe.
Hey, thank you.
Good luck, Mark.
Hey, Hey, thanks, Greg. Appreciate you.
John is Snyder, Northumberland and Snyder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and